Hey guys, and welcome to my rotation guide for Condi Harbinger. First of all, I'm going to quickly go over some basics of this elite spec, and then I'm going to go into the rotation step by step. For the basics, when you spec into Harbinger, you gain access to Elixirs as your utility skills, you gain access to Harbinger Shroud, which replaces your Death Shroud, and you get Pistol as a main hand weapon. You also get a new mechanic called Blight. Blight is gained through standing in the impact of your elixirs and by being in Harbinger Shroud. It reduces your maximum health by 1.5% each stack, up to a total of 25 stacks. Through the trait Septic Corruption, you also gain increased condition damage for each stack of Blight on you. Through the next trait Alchemic Vigor, you also heal yourself each second per stack of Blight. Blight can also be spent for certain skills. For example, your elixirs, when you're above the threshold, they will consume 5 Blight and then they will be stronger. The same goes for your Shroud 3 and your Shroud 4, although Shroud 4 will require a threshold of 10 and then also consume 10 stacks. For Harbinger Shroud, this replaces the core Necro Death Shroud, as I said. However, it does not act as a second health bar, so if you take damage here, you will still take the damage to your life and not reduce your life force like on Core Necro or on Reaper. As you can see, being in Harbinger Shroud also constantly drains life force, and same as with any other Necromancer build that uses conditions, you trigger Plague Sending when going into your Shroud, meaning you will transfer 2 conditions from you to the enemy with your first hit. Entering and exiting Shroud also triggers Soul Barbs, which increases our damage for 10 seconds after entering or exiting. You also gain life force when entering Shroud through Corrupted Talent. This means even if you're at basically 0 life force, you can always enter Harbinger Shroud because you gain a few thousand life force for free. Now onto the elixirs. Elixirs basically give you boons when you activate them, and then you throw them at your target location. In the target location, they deal damage and inflict a condition on enemies, and then if you stand in the impact, you also gain Blight. So if I use the Quickness Elixir over to the side, I just gained the boons and I did not receive any Blight stacks. If I, however, throw an Elixir at my feet, then you will see I gain 10 Blight stacks. If you are above the Blight threshold, Elixirs will also consume some Blight in order to deal extra damage and double the condition duration on them. For example, on the Heal Elixir here, you see I went from 10 to 15 stacks because it consumed 5 to deal double damage and then gave me 10 from standing in the impact. This means that when using your Elixirs, you always want to be using your Heal Elixir last to make sure that you are above the Blight threshold, because this is the only one that inflicts a damaging condition, being poison. Your green elixir just inflicts weakness, and your red elixir inflicts cripple. Lastly, for the Harbinger specific stuff, your pistol. Your pistol 2 and 3 give life force, and they are really strong skills that you should always be using. Your pistol auto attack is great for filling gaps when no other skills are off cooldown, and it will replace your Scepter auto, which is your second set completely. Ideally, in the Harbinger rotation, you will never auto attack on Scepter, but always auto attack on pistol when you need to fill a gap. Now with the basics done, let's look at the rotation step by step. For the first step, we're just going to look at the opener and our Harbinger Shroud rotation. For the opener, we want to get out our big damage skills and then go into Shroud as fast as possible. There's going to be a small little precast before the opener though. Ideally, a few seconds before the fight, you want to use your 3 elixirs on yourself. This will stack up your Blight to 20 and you can enter combat. 20 is the maximum amount of Blight we can get without slotting an extra elixir, like the Elite Elixir. We will also consume this Blight very early in the rotation, approximately 10 to 15 seconds in, so you do have some leeway on when to precast the elixirs. If you have absolutely no idea when you will start the fight, you can also just use them at the start of the fight. However, you will then need to use a few extra pistol autos later in the rotation until they are back up. Now for the real opener, we want to use our big damage skills as mentioned. We're going to start with Plague Lance. Then we're going to use Scepter 3, swap to our pistol set, use pistol 2, and then we use Blood is Power and enter Harbinger Shroud. This will trigger Plague Sending, like I said before, which will transfer the 2 conditions from Blood is Power onto the enemy. This also means we want to use this combo every single time we enter Harbinger Shroud. So the last skill before we go into Harbinger Shroud is always going to be Blood is Power. So let's quickly look at this in action. I'm going to cast my 3 elixirs. I'm getting to 20 Blight stacks. And then I can go to the Golem and cast Plague Lance, Scepter 3, Pistol 2, Blood is Power, and then I enter my Shroud. Now once we are inside the Shroud, we will do the same rotation every time we enter Shroud. There's a few things to note about the Shroud skills though, especially the ones we are using. We will be using 2, 3, and 4 regularly. 4 is a targeted leap at your location. It will consume 10 Blight stacks if we are above the threshold, and then it will do double damage. Your 3 skill dashes you towards the enemy, and then on impact it will explode and deal damage. However, if you are right next to the enemy, you can cancel the skill right away and you see the explosion still went off and it dealt its full damage. The last skill we're actually going to use is going to be our Shroud 2. You will see it fires 6 bolts on the enemy. If we are standing a bit further away, this means not all of them will hit because they will spray out in a cone. The damage number was 4,600 instead of over 9,000, which means that only 3 out of my 6 bolts actually hit. You can also cancel this skill too early by exiting Shroud. So if I use my 2 skill and then I exit Shroud, you saw I only got a single hit off with 1,600. However, if I use my 2 skill and then wait a bit and exit Shroud, you saw there was the full almost 10,000 damage, so all 6 hits landed. We will be using Shroud 2 a total of 3 times in our Shroud rotation, so you really want to make sure that you do not cancel the last one by exiting Shroud too early. But now onto the real Shroud rotation. As soon as we enter, we're going to use our 2 skill, then we use our 4 skill, then 3, and then we auto attack 5 times, then use our 2 skill again, auto attack another 5 times, and then 4, 3, 2, and exit Shroud. And this is what we will do every single time we go into Shroud, so you might want to just reset your cooldowns with your special action key on the Golem and practice this a few times. 2, 4, 3, 5 auto attacks, 2, 5 auto attacks, 4, 3, 2, and then exit Shroud. What you want to pay attention to, like I said, is that you can cancel your Shroud 3 skill as early as you want, as long as you're in melee, and you still do the full damage. And then you really want to pay attention that you get all 6 hits from the last Shroud 2 you cast before exiting. Now after leaving the Shroud, it's time to use our pistol rotation for the first time. After exiting Shroud, we want to use our pistol rotation, namely pistol 2, then pistol 3, then we want to use Dagger 5, throw all 3 elixirs, and like I mentioned before, you want to pay attention that the heal elixir is last, and then pistol 2 will be up again. I'll do this fast one time, which is pistol 2, 3, 5 elixirs, and then I had to use 1 auto attack, and then pistol 2 comes up again. You will not always have to use the extra auto attack, sometimes there will be some other filler skills you will use in this time. But in general, your rotation is going to be pistol 2, 3, 5 elixirs, and then 2 again. Anytime there's any downtime in your rotation, you want to just fill the downtime with pistol auto attacks as they are quite strong. The 3 things we've looked at so far, meaning the opener, the Shroud rotation, and the pistol rotation, you might want to practice those a few times because they will first of all get you to a really good opening number if you practice them, and then also you will use the Shroud rotation and the pistol rotation multiple times during the loop. Now that we know about the Shroud rotation and the pistol rotation, we can look at the general loop that we will use. We are going to alternate between going into Shroud on the pistol set one time and then on the Scepter set the next time. The Scepter set is only used for using the 2 and 3 skill before going into Shroud, and then using them once again after Shroud is over, and then immediately swapping back to pistol. Our general loop is going to look the following way. We're going to use the pistol rotation that we already know. 2, 3, 5 elixirs, and then 2 when it's back up. After we use our pistol rotation, we're going to swap to Scepter and use our 2 and 3 skill. Then it is time for our combo of using Blood is Power and entering Harbinger Shroud, followed by the Shroud rotation. 2, 4, 3, 5 auto attacks, 2, 5 auto attacks, 4, 3, 2. After we exit Shroud, we want to use our Scepter 2 and 3 once again before swapping back to the pistol. Once we are back on the pistol set, we can do our pistol rotation again, meaning 2, 3, 5 elixirs, and 2. And after this is done, we will use Blood is Power and Harbinger Shroud and do our Shroud rotation. After the Shroud rotation is over, we are just going to start all over again, and we're going to go into our pistol rotation, weapon swap, Scepter, Blood is Power plus Shroud, and so on. I will show this fully once, including the opener. I will reset the Golem for this. So from what we know so far, I will wait until my Blight stack goes away. So I will use my 3 elixirs at the start to get 20 Blight stacks, and then I'm going to do the opener. Then I'm going to go into Shroud and do my Shroud rotation. Then I'm going to use my pistol rotation, 2, 3, 5, elixir, 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 pistol. Swap weapon, 2, 3, Blood is Power, and Shroud rotation again. After Shroud, I'm going to use Scepter 2 and 3 again, and then I'm back on pistol, where I can do my pistol rotation. Blood is Power, Shroud, Shroud rotation. And then after this, the loop is complete, and I would just start over again with my pistol rotation. As you can see, my elixirs had 5 seconds cooldown here, so we cannot do the full pistol rotation right away. So what we would have done in this case is we just use our 2 skill, then our 3 skill, and then we just auto attack until we can do the rest of the pistol loop, meaning 5 elixirs and 2. And now we just repeat this loop until the golem or the boss dies. After knowing our general loop, the last thing we need to look at is incorporating Dagger 4 into the rotation. Dagger 4 acts similarly to our trait Plague Sending in that it transfers 2 conditions over to the enemy. So the way we will use this is we use Blood is Power and then Dagger 4 to transfer its conditions. If you look at Blood is Power, it has a recharge time of 20 seconds, which means 16 seconds with Alacrity. I talked earlier about how we want to enter Harbinger Shroud every 20 seconds approximately. This means we will gain back more Blood is Power stacks than we use right before entering Harbinger Shroud. So if we ever have an extra stack, we want to use it and then get rid of the Condis with our Dagger 4. Since Dagger 4 also has a cast time, if you know that you're going to get Condi cleansed after using Blood is Power, then you just want to skip the Dagger 4 because the damage on its own is not very good if you don't transfer any conditions. The first time this will happen, that we have an extra Blood is Power stack, is right after the first time we leave Shroud. And I will show you how to incorporate it into the rotation there. So we did our opener, we enter Shroud, and we do our Shroud rotation here. And then afterwards we do the pistol rotation, and we're going to incorporate the Blood is Power Dagger 4 combo instead of using an auto attack. 2, 3, Blood is Power 4, and then 5 elixirs and 2. Later on in the rotation, Plague Lance will also come off cooldown, and Dagger 4 can also be used to transfer the conditions from Plague Lance. I drop Plague Lance, and then I transfer the conditions over with my Dagger 4. This will be useful a bit later into the loop. One thing you want to pay attention to is that you don't use the Blood is Power plus Dagger 4 combo too often, otherwise you run out of stacks of Blood is Power to use before Harbinger Shroud. However, if you accidentally use this combo too often, don't panic. Just enter Harbinger Shroud without using Blood is Power to reset this cooldown, instead of just delaying your Harbinger Shroud for too long, which would decrease your DPS by a lot more. Now, as a last part, I quickly want to go over how to recover your rotation if you get lost. Maybe you messed something up and you got completely lost in your rotation for a while and you don't know what to press next. Maybe you had a mechanic that forced you to move out of range of all of your skills. What to do afterwards? Well, first of all, your pistol set is a lot stronger than your Scepter set, so as soon as you can, swap to your pistol set if you're not already on it. And then, basically, you want to look at the cooldown of your Harbinger Shroud and the cooldown of your Elixirs. If your Elixirs are about to come up, you can do your pistol rotation with 2, 3, 5 Elixirs and 2. If any of these skills are not off cooldown, for example, you use Dagger 5 a lot earlier than your Elixirs, or you have used your pistol 3 already, then you just want to skip that respective step in the pistol rotation. If your Blood is Power Harbinger Shroud combo is up, then you can also go into that. You can use Blood is Power Harbinger Shroud and go into the Shroud rotation. And the main reset point is exactly this. So after you used your pistol rotation and do your Shroud rotation, or if you just go into the Shroud rotation after this, you can remember to always reset your loop from the start. After the Shroud rotation is done, we can go back into our pistol rotation, weapon swap, use our Scepter skills, Blood is Power, Shroud, and so on. So basically, whenever you get lost, TLDR, just swap back to pistol, wait until you can either enter Shroud or until you have your pistol combo with your Elixirs up, and then just start from step 1 again. After Shroud, you use pistol, weapon swap, Scepter, and so on. And that's it for the guide about Condi Harbinger rotation. The last thing I will do here is I will let a video roll of myself doing the rotation on the Golem. Quick disclaimer, this is currently about 1000 below the benchmark. This is just a demonstration of how the rotation works, especially for the 4th step we talked about with the Dagger 4 combo. Just pay attention to when I use the Blood is Power Dagger 4 combo and when I use it with Plague Lance to get an idea for that part.
Day has passed like a hurricane to my heart, to far away. See the lights on the other side. I'm going to get there and hope we will meet there. Day has passed like a hurricane to my heart, to the fire.